Hello, good evening, and welcome to Monkeys with Fire. How is everybody tonight? Hope you're all well. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. So then, we're doing another role-playing deep dive. Which game are we looking at tonight? We are going to explore Mutant Year Zero from Free League Publishing. This is, I believe, Free League's first role-playing game, so it's interesting that we'll get to take a look at their origins, so to speak, having looked at so many of their subsequent releases over the past few weeks. Let's just say a quick hello to the chat. Hello, Mystical, thank you for joining us. All PC problems all resolved? Alright, what we'll do is well, if you're all good and ready, we'll bring you on in, and then we'll take a look at the book, hey? All right, let's bring you in then. Hello, Mystical.
Hello. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good.
Excellent.
I'm very excited about this game.
Oh well, that's good. That's good. I am as well. But we'll take a look at the actual hard copy that I have in front of me here now. And then, of course, we'll take a look at the digital PDF. So let's jump to the table. So here we go. Here is the book. As I say, this was their first role-playing game, and it's interesting to see that the quality that we have become used to with Free League was there at day one. It's a nice hard-backed book. It's got really nice maps. The layout is very clear, very easy to go through this. I think, Mystical, I think my sound is coming up on your speakers.
Oh, is that better?
Yes, hopefully so.
Okay.
So we've got a look to look at. What have we got? We have some 264 pages with a bit of change as far as character sheets at the back of the book there, which of course you can print out. So there's a lot of fun to be had here. But let's jump to the digital version, and we can explore it a little bit more. Good evening, Roger. Thank you for joining us.
I will say that this one was not nearly as bright as their later ones. So that's interesting to see.
As far as the colour palette within the actual book? Is that what you're referring to? Right, okay. I believe, because this was their sort of opening game, they won several Ennies awards for this game. One of them being for the actual cover art, which we'll look at it a bit more, but since it's there right in front of us, I believe that they won an award for the cartography within the game as well. I think it was also best rules for that year. I think it was 2015. I think I'm right on that. So yes, and we'll go into it a little bit more detail, but of course this is the first usage of what they then named, of course, their Year Zero engine, which we'll get things familiar in this game that we've already experienced in what they've used in their later games, where they've obviously had that engine and just refined it for the particular game universe that they wanted it to portray. But let's jump on into the digital version. There we go. So yeah, I mean, what a great scene right at the start there. I think it really does help sort of thematically set the game. We definitely know something big has happened. Not everybody survived. We have a trashed cityscape. We have fires. We have rubble. We have vehicles strewn over the place. And then we have these characters that are not quite human. But I'm really intrigued as to what the guy in the sort of diver's suit looks like. Does he?
And also, that is so heavy to walk around on the street on. Wow.
Well, this is the thing: is why would you be wearing it? Because we are aware that there is mutation within this game. What's happened to this person that requires them to wear some kind of diving suit? So
yeah, and why is he the only one wearing it?
Yeah, is it to protect himself from those around him, or protect those around him from him? Who knows? He's wearing gloves. He's wearing a full suit there. So okay. Let's go on in then. So I spoke a little bit about the cartography that they've done for the game. This is called the Old Smoke, and anybody in the UK might instantly recognise this. That it is, of course, London, with the River Thames. There are a few of London's landmarks that have survived through the apocalyptic event, but there are miles and miles of area to be explored. Each of these squares represents 1 square mile, so there is lots to find. But there's some nice, interesting little elements here. We've got the column. Nelson's column. We have Old Ben, the dark castle, and the old ship. There's a huge sinkhole. I guess you could kind of, because it gives you the essence. Mike is saying, "Oh, EastEnders, yes, absolutely." You could take a modern map of London and put in a few extra elements in there that might have survived, so you could make it very, very personal if you are from the UK, or if you've ever been to those locations before. Interestingly, I can't show you quite at the moment. We'll skip to the end, but there is a similar map for New York, which is renamed the Bad Apple. So we've got that. So. And essentially, you can play this game in any location, any city, and just, trash it, basically, and let nature take over a little bit. Okay.
I really like the area labeled Hungry Plants.
Yes, it's somewhat scary.
Oh, why are there hungry plants? Why do they just need watering, or are they carnivorous? I need answers.
I'm thinking they're carnivorous. I mean, you see, unfortunately, my geography of London's not that good. But could that be Kew Gardens? There is several. That might be an interesting little nod and and quite funny. But up in the north, there is is it the Fawn Dome? It's not the Thunderdome, it's the Fawn Dome.
Yeah.
And Alexandra's Tower.
And the Spotty Waste.
Yes.
Oh, this map makes me so happy.
It's great, isn't it? As I say, you can get a printable version of it, so you could start marking in other areas of interest, and we will talk about one of the main points that you might want to mark on into the map as we go through the book. So let's continue.
That stay clear area gives very much like here be dragons.
Yes. Yes.
Don't go there.
Yeah, there's actually multiple locations there, isn't there? There's a do not enter down in the bottom left corner.
Mm-hmm.
Howling at the night. Be cautious. I like the scribbles. There's a tunnel entrance to the subway.
I'm interested if the white lines are just supposed to be like exaggerated like wear marks, or if they're meant to be like roads or paths.
I am thinking it's the old roads.
See the crumples.
Yes, I think it's the old roads. That's what I took it as, and that's why I think having your own version of a London map so that you could actually start taking some of those elements and putting them on in, I think that'd be quite cool. Okay, so going on through. This is quite nice. I noticed that they color code the sections. So we have the players section, all in this sort of red, and then you skip over and you have the Games Masters section. So nice and easy, and the color coding continues throughout the book so that you don't accidentally stray into the GM section if you're a player. And so I guess it sets the scene, doesn't it? Of course, the world ends, which is great. It happens quickly, faster than anyone could predict. The Red Plague hits a world already on the brink of collapse. Extreme climate change, global economic crisis, increasing conflict between old and new superpowers. When the pandemic comes, the last thin veneer of stability crumbles. Oh yes, we know it so well. So, funny, isn't it? Again, this being written in, was it 2014? So, yeah. Things haven't changed that much. So it sets the scene for the players, but ultimately, as it says on the next page, this is year zero. So everything that was before has now crumbled. We are effectively the new generation. But it does explain a little bit, which is quite interesting, is that we are effectively the new, but maybe even the last generation, because people are not able to have children anymore. And our elder, we are all living in an ark, an enclave. There's about 200 of us. And we've been very sort of isolated. We've been making sure nobody's come on in. We're keeping ourselves all safe. But now we have been told that we must go out into the zone. We must go out to scavenge for food and for knowledge, potentially. We've got to go out into the outside world. And this elder potentially is somebody, of course, who was there before the collapse of civilization. But as it says, food is running scarce, and the fight for what's left is turning violent. So it goes on to a little bit here, telling us about, obviously, roleplay gaming. And it basically is pointing out there, warning to players, do not read section 2, which is for the Games Master. And it's interesting to sort of go through the book to basically sort of see, you know, how they set things out as far as this initial foray into the role-playing game sphere, how they're going to sort of help new players on in. And again, this hasn't changed that much through all of their subsequent releases.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's nice to see the consistency.
Yes, yeah. And again, it sort of emphasizes that they started incredibly strong. So,
yeah.
So basically, it's explaining to the player what we're going to do. We're going to be fighting for food, water, and bullets. We're going to be taking part in projects that every day is a fight for survival. But people want more than just to survive. A new society must be built, or the Ark, our home, will sooner or later face collapse and ruin. We've got to protect the Ark from invaders potentially. Protect our own. So we've got to make friends, exploring the zone, and search for Eden.
But I don't want to make friends.
Well, maybe you have to. You have to make friends in this new world. But this search for Eden, maybe it's just a fairy tale, a collective figment of the imagination. Stories whispered around flickering trash can fires in the Ark. But you cannot stop believing that salvation, or at least the truth about the origin of the people, is somewhere out there in the zone. The people call this place Eden. So the hunt for Eden relates to the so-called meta-plot, an overarching storyline that is a big part of this game, but it's only for the GM's eyes. I've been watching... Yes, well, I've been watching a lot of apocalyptic TV shows recently. Some not necessarily to set me up for this particular game, but it just so happens, and it's like, yeah, I can see there's a lot of similarity, and I can I'm being fueled with lots of great ideas of what you could potentially do with this game system. Because the great thing about it is it's essentially original. It's not fixed within an existing game world. So you can pretty much do your own stuff. And of course, there's such great material out there that you can pull from.
It gives me very for TV shows and movies and that, Blight or Bright, which was like a Shadowrun Bright type of thing, because it's very, very apocalyptic heavy there. But I love this so much. And the aspect of the human race is in trouble because we can no longer populate is for TV shows, that just brings to mind Zoo, which just has the animals attacking everyone, and it's so good.
We will come on to that later on, because that's an interesting little tease as where this game goes. Right, which I haven't got now, but I'll get hold of it because it's the next step. And as much as I think this is great, I actually think that this next step, that's the game I want to play. But we'll talk about that in a second. So it does go through the tools of the game, just explaining what you need. Obviously the dice and the mutant card deck, which are all available at Free League store. Then I'm just going over again, just explaining to new players how a role-playing game works. We talked about fast forwarding, so of course, as much as you're living your character's life, you don't have to spend every single minute explaining everything you do. So it very much fits into a TV show kind of format. It has you have your scenes, don't you? What's important for your characters to act out, to achieve within that scene, and then we move on to the next scene, and that could be the next day. It could be in just maybe a couple of hours' time, as they've just done a quick car journey to a new location. Again, really, really positive that they're talking about discrimination here, him and her. So again, all the way back to 2014, already part of the game here. And then just telling you a little bit about how to get started. And so we just jump straight on in then. And of course, the first most important part of the game is creating your character. or in this instance, your mutant. And I'm just loving the artwork here.
Yeah, this is what reminded me of like Carnival Row or Blight or Bright, and I was just like, oh my gosh. I spent I think 20 minutes trying to find the name of that movie because I was like, I can see the characters and I can't think of the name.
Right.
What was it?
Yeah, no, these are. I mean, I guess the easiest way to explain this is the apocalypse meets the X-Men, isn't it? And if you kind of, anyone who's into a little bit of geekdom is going to understand both of those sort of themes and can quite easily put them together. So it does just go through. Essentially, there are just 12 steps to creating your character: choosing a role, choosing a name, defining your appearance, distributing 14 points across 4 attribute scores, distributing 10 points across skill levels, choosing a talent, drawing a mutation, defining your relationship to the other PCs and NPCs, choose a big dream, choose your gear, create your arc, which we'll investigate in Chapter 7 because I think the arc is a really, really cool aspect of this game, and then describe your den. So it does already go through the role, and basically it gives you pages where you can go to sort of fast track these elements. Your name, your attributes, which is strength, agility, wit, and empathy. You have an extra mutation, so you choose to start the game with an extra mutation. One of your attribute scores must be decreased, so you can have up to 2 at the start of the game. But we'll look at mutations in a bit. Your talents, then your mutations, and your mutations is a random draw. And I thought this was kind of interesting because depending on your mutation, that can radically alter your character. It's an element of, typically when you're making a character up, you're kind of, you're chiseling this character into the how you want to be. But this mutation is random, and so suddenly whatever your plans might have been could slightly change. But I think there's a positive there, that it's going to force you to explore a completely unique character that you weren't necessarily expecting, and hopefully you really go for it. I find that an interesting sort of challenge. What do you think?
And so much RP possibilities.
Yes.
It's amazing. I love stuff like that. I actually currently do that with one of my D&D characters. I chose to take on a disability that was very, very hindering in the setting we're in, but I was like, I'm gonna roll with it.
Right. Oh, that's good.
So, I love it. I love that in games because it's you put so much creativity, and you have to start thinking outside of the box, and how do you approach it differently. And
yeah, no, I mean that's the thing, isn't it? Is that whenever we have characters, we're typically trying to create the character we want and at the perfection level that we want, and that kind of undermines it instantly. And hopefully you go for it, and you take it as a challenge. And we'll understand a little bit more as we go through some of the mutations. But what's nice is that on this next page, it goes through, and here we go. We've got a character already generated. And to give a little bit of a hint, the mutation is that they are a rot eater. The rot is a sort of plague that is all around the zone out there in the wilderness. And of course, they like to eat it, which means that they're probably not the most attractive looking type of creature there is to have as part of your party, which can then be can be seen, I suppose, as a little bit of a sort of social barrier to others.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you got to remember, we live in a world where essentially everyone's a mutant, and just because somebody looks human what are they, what's hidden? You know, maybe their mutation is something else that cannot be seen. Maybe it's not a visual thing, but they still have an element to them that maybe they're not proud of, or and find uncomfortable. And I like that element. I think it's cool.
And like I can see where it would be a hindrance, though, is if you're trying to like be diplomatic with someone and try and get in somewhere or where you're not necessarily supposed to be, or you're trying to get information. If it's something that affects their appearance, they could be a distraction, and maybe this person just wants nothing to do with you because they're like, I don't know, no, we don't deal with them.
Yes.
So you got to figure out how to work around that too.
Yes. Well, I can see that there can be a lot of opportunities for role-playing discrimination within the game. Which is really, really good, because you as you say, you've got to think out of the box a little bit, because there's a situation of, I suppose, Beauty and the Beast, that your character could be the most visually horrific looking character there is, and yet be the most charming or intelligent or thoughtful character, but they are stuck with this mutation and there's nothing they can do about it. And again, from the role-playing side of it, I think that gives you just so much to do, so much fun.
Well, and you can also use it on the flip side. You may look this horrifying appearance. Use it to your advantage. You can intimidate people really well.
Yes.
So, it's so much fun.
Okay, so it continues to go through to develop your mutant. We're just going to skip past a lot of this because we then get to the... Let me just double check on this. Hang on a second. Yes, our roles, isn't it? So let's take a look at these. Let's see what role you decided would most suit you. Yeah, I know. All right, maybe I'll try and guess. Okay, so we have the Enforcer. So this is just the brawler. I mean, look at the size of those fists.
Yeah.
Every day is a fight for survival, and no one knows that better than you. I like we have some typical names here. Lenny. Yeah, Lenny's a good Enforcer's name. We have sections on the appearance and talents, ideas for relationships to other PCs and to the NPCs, an idea of what your big dream is. But your beloved will love you back. Oh, you see, Lenny might be big and gruff, but he just wants to be loved.
He's just a big teddy bear. He's a big softie.
Absolutely. We will be looking at talents later on. And he has a specialist skill of Intimidate. So there we go. We then have the Gearhead. So for other people, the zone is an empty wasteland littered with useless scrap and garbage, but for you, it is a gold mine that is never depleted. And again, I'm really enjoying going through the game, because relating it to TV shows that I'm watching. I'm watching Silo at the moment, and the Gearhead is one of those characters in there. You can imagine, that in the years after the apocalypse, and they pick up a toaster, and they're there tinkering, trying to work out what does this contraption do, especially since all knowledge has kind of been destroyed. They've got no idea it's a toaster. But
it's Wally.
Yeah. There's a lever at the side. There looks like a grill. Maybe there's no electricity. But maybe they've seen a plug before, or maybe they've got some sort of generator at the Ark, and so they know. Okay, maybe we have to plug it in. and then they can feel heat coming from it. But the concept of putting bread in it, maybe it never gets to that stage. Who knows?
Just some weird way to keep your hands warm if you hover it over it.
That's it. Yes. Yeah, exactly. These strange, vents.
Yeah.
Maybe they disassemble it and put it into two halves and it becomes a heater. Yeah. So, but, yeah, so they have a specialist skill of jury rig, and their talents are inventor and motorhead and tinkerer. And their big dream: find Eden and explore all of the technical marvels hidden there. Hopefully, Eden does not disappoint. We then have a stalker. And there's a little point in the description here. It says, only you know the way through the zone, the safe paths across the grave lands of the old age. And from what I understand, you pretty much need a stalker in your party. They are an essential character role that's got to be there, which makes thematic sense because this group of characters have essentially stayed into their entire life within the arc, and it's only the stalkers that go out and venture and find the safe pathways. So they are a guide, in effect, taking this group on out, but working with the group. So their specialist skill is find the path. And they're a scavenger, a monster hunter, a rot finder. So they definitely have some essential skills and talents in this new world. We then have...
It'd be really good if they were the ones who had the rot eater on them, because if you can find it.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe so. I mean, again, this is a really interesting dynamic, isn't it? That, just because, okay, this particular character is wearing a gas mask, but we had the character on the cover art who's wearing the diver's suit. Maybe.
Yeah.
No one's ever seen this stalker's face because they keep their face
no one
hidden.
ever sees a stalker's face.
Oh, maybe that's a thing. But then we find out that they are, there's something there in their mutation. Maybe they are, horrifically scarred or mutated, or maybe I'm thinking now of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Maybe they have very childlike sort of cherub features. That's their look.
Yeah.
Is it Master Blaster and... Yeah, Master and Blaster, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
My D&D character, she keeps her face covered because that's what happened to her. Her entire left side is scarred up.
Right.
So
okay. Yeah, I mean, there's so much fun to be had here in creating characters for this game. We got a fixer. So when everything all falls to shit, there's always somebody who is the person who can get what you need no matter the cost, yeah? And that's the fixer. So they have the specialist skill of making a deal, a wheeler and dealer, and into the juicy info. So maybe not quite to be trusted.
This is Saul.
Yes.
Saul.
Yeah, Saul in the apocalypse, yes.
Yeah.
We
he survived.
We have the dog handler. So this is quite cool. Specialist skill of sick a dog. It's Stand By Me, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
Talent, mutant's best friend, which is cool. And there you go. Their big dream is to leave the Ark with their dog and find a better life elsewhere.
I feel like this is Sarah's class right here.
I think she would. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. We then have... Oh, wrong way. the chronicler. And everything must be recorded. All the people do must be taken note of, nothing forgotten. So this is the sort of the storyteller who possibly carries forward the lessons from the past. Maybe they have a great deal of knowledge, but not actual practical knowledge. It's all stories that have been passed on through the campfire. So maybe they would know what a toaster was, or have an idea, but not the full picture. Just little snippets of it. You know, it was something that the people used every morning.
It's like a game of broken telephone. It's been passed down through so many generations that it's just twisted, and it's like, oh yeah, it was definitely used for this. And it's like, no, it was not.
Yes, yeah. I think they could, again, as a player, you could have a lot of fun crafting your little stories of things that the GM's telling you found, and you've got to sort of say it in a way that nobody else understands. I think that actually could add a real awesome level to the game, that if you had a chronicler or somebody within the party who has that level of a bit more knowledge, and the GM, you know, doesn't necessarily spell out, you see a red and chrome box. It's about 7 or 8 inches long. It has 2 sections.
Yeah.
At the top of it was a grill. Never actually uses the word "you've found a toaster," because your characters wouldn't know.
Exactly. And then you have the chronicler who gets really excited about, oh, this piece was used for this, and they're just like run off. And you're like, no, wait, come back.
Yeah.
Like, that is how I see this character, is like they show him as so like intimidating and like, I'm a big tough guy. No. You are this, like, maybe you have some like makeshift glasses that the fixer made for you or someone else did, and they're like just held together with like wire. And you get so excited at different things, or you get so like distracted. Like, it is very much squirrel.
Yeah.
Like, that is how I would play this character.
Yeah, no, that would. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? The stalker is, be careful of everything. It's all out to kill you. And the chronicler it's a field trip. It's happy. Look at this. It's like, that's going to kill you. Stay with the party. Stop wandering off.
It's like, put them on those leashes that they have for children, where you have like a little backpack. Like, get the leash on her.
Fantastic.
Oh gosh.
Okay, so we then go, and this is again an interesting character within the player's party, the boss. And I this would be an interesting one to sort of work on in. Why is the boss of maybe the gang within the Ark, why are they coming on out to explore? Some lead and others follow. You lead, though, through intrigue, manipulation, and naked violence. You have convinced a gang of mutants to follow you as their leader. That doesn't mean your life is simple. There is always another boss who wants to break you, or some underling who wants to take your place.
Yeah. So it's very much like, I may be the head honcho, but I need to prove myself consistently to remain that way.
Yes. Yeah. Again, that'd be quite interesting. And then here we go. To go along with the boss is the grunt. So you've got to, the boss has got to be the boss over someone, haven't they? And the grunt feels like they're the person that maybe the boss would have a lot of sway over. So that is all of the core rolls. Let's just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 in total in the book. Just here. So then we move on. So once we've decided on a particular role, we go into the skills section, which there are 12 basic skills in the game. And these break down into the 4 attributes that we mentioned at the start, which was strength, agility, wits, and empathy, 3 of each. So the basic skills are endure, force, fight, sneak, move, and shoot, scout, comprehend, know the zone, sense emotion, manipulate, and heal. And of course, like with any role-playing game, is that whenever you want to do something, you are essentially doing a skill check. You are rolling 6s, and basically you put together, I think, and this is, and of course this is what they followed through in all their subsequent games. So you're going to take the number of dice, is it? So let's just make sure I'm getting this right. So when you use a skill, first describe what your character does or says, then grab a number of skill dice, the green ones, equal to your skill level, a number of base dice equal to the current value of the attribute connected to the skill, and if you're using the right tool, you get a number of gear dice, which are the black dice, and then you roll them all together. And you are looking for 6s. 6s are successes. So it's pretty easy, pretty straightforward.
Yeah, that's always good to have, especially when you have so much that you can like think about for your character wise. It's nice to have an easy system to follow.
There we go. And there are modifications for difficulty, which the GM can apply to the certain roles, making it harder or easier. Your gear can break if you get lots of, I think it's 1s on your gear dice. So you've got to be mindful of that. Of course, you can then, if you've got a tinkerer within your party, they can potentially fix it if they can get hold of the right materials. And gives you some ideas of your percentage chance of successes. And of course we got opposed rolls when we are doing something against other characters. And then it goes through your basic skills. So looking at them in a little bit more detail, and of course just helping new players understand how you potentially might use that skill in under what circumstances. So for example, there we go, endure as part of your strength attribute. So when a zone takes its toll, when your legs won't carry you anymore, you roll for endure. This skill is used when you're traveling in rough weather or when you suffer severely cold conditions. So if you're successful, you manage to push on through, and failure, you just can't take it anymore. You have to rest for a couple of hours. But but what if some predators spot you? Okay, so that's cool. And it basically just goes through all of the skills, the basic skills, giving you a little bit of a description on each one. So for shooting, using your agility, scouting, you're able to see things and be aware of maybe traps or prey that is you're hunting or it's hunting you. There you go. And then as we went through the different roles, there are specialist skills that are unique to each of those roles. So we didn't say which role out of the grouping, which one was your favorite? Which one did you like?
What you were going to try and guess, so let's see if you can guess.
Well, you were quite right that Sarah would definitely go for the dog handler. Ooh.
Yep.
So we got the grunt, we got the boss. You did like the chronicler a lot. Not the dog handler, not the fixer. Maybe not the stalker. Gearhead, not the enforcer. I'm going to go between Gearhead and Chronicler. And given your level of excitement, I'm going to say Chronicler.
So I was actually torn between the Stalker and the Chronicler.
Okay. You like to
I had some really like good ideas for both of those.
Okay, all right. Well, there we go. Yes. I think I think the Stalker, because I always tend to like to play a ranger style of character, and I think that the Stalker would fit into that. I like the idea of the boss, maybe. I think that might be quite interesting. I like the idea of the sort of the politics or the what's going on within the group.
Yeah.
Constantly having to try, looking out for himself. Trying to sort of, maybe there's somebody else who's the de facto leader of the group, but because I am a boss within the arc, I've not got my same level of power because I'm not with all my my group. But of course, I still believe I should be in charge. So I'm always sort of fighting a little bit in words and in trying to get the team on my side. I think that could be quite good fun. But you went for either the Stalker or the Chronicler, so let's take a look. You can look at the specialist skills here on the characters, and we'll go through and find. So here we go. The Chronicler has the skill of Inspire. So your mission in life is to witness and record the people's fate in the dawnworld, but also interfere when needed. When other mutants lose their resolve, you can help them find their courage again. And when they stray from the right path, you can guide them back. Roll for Inspire when you wish to help or hinder another person rolling for a skill. You need to be in a position to help or hinder the person. That's interesting. That you could, if the boss was trying to manipulate, maybe the Chronicler comes on in and hinders that roll.
Right? Yeah. You just start feeding information. You're like, wait, no, that's not right.
Yes.
Stop that.
Yeah.
And that definitely, like, that sort of like trickster behavior falls into how I would like create this character, because it would definitely be like, it's like this 5'0" tall person and oversized clothing, scarf around their face, like a hat, like a toque on, and you just like are everywhere at once. And when you try and point at something, your sleeve that was rolled up flops over your hand. Like, you very much look like you're a juvenile, but you're really like this. You're just tiny, and it just
Well, here we go. Looking over at the next page, I was talking about the boss. So as a boss, you are never alone. You always have your gang of mutants nearby, ready to rush to your aid. Ah, I see. So the size, your skill level is an indicator of how large your gang is. Every level represents about 3 to 4 members. So a basic gang mostly consists of enforcers and maybe a dog handler and a fixer. So you have a group of NPCs that you can call to assist you. That's interesting, quite cool. I like the sort of Fagin look of the character here.
yeah.
Given the fact of that we're in this old London, which is quite cool.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, let me just have a quick skip back here, that... Yeah, the Stalker does have actually quite a lot. So finding the path, as we mentioned, the Stalker is quite important. So any fool can walk into the zone, but if you don't know what you're doing, you'll soon end up a corpse. So this is where find the path skill is very important. And
have you seen the show Shadow and Bone?
Oh yes, I have. Yes.
So the stalker is the one who can get you through the mist, the rift there.
Yep, there we go.
That's how it is. Like, that's how I see it, and I'm like, oh, that could be so much fun to play him like that.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So here we go. If you're successful, you find a safe path and spot any threats in the zone before they spot you. So yes, stalkers are an essential part of the party. The conductor, yes, Roger, you like the show as well. All right, so we will leave our special skills and we'll take a look then at the talents. And again, each role had 3 different talents. So we'll just go and look at what is specific to ours to get a bit of an understanding. So the Chronicler. Agitator, you get a +2 modification when you inspire someone to fight or shoot. Performer, once per session, if you're in the Ark, you can perform for the people. You can tell a story by a trash can fire, recite poetry, or sing a song. Roll to inspire. Must be every, what is that, every 6? Must be a 6, yeah. Every 6 gives you D6 bullets or rations of grub. A failed roll means someone doesn't appreciate your art. Boo! Get off the stage, boo! Gosh, even in the apocalypse, there's always critics.
Always hecklers.
Yeah. Boss's talents. So as a commander, you get +2 modifications when you order your gang to fight for you. Gunslingers and racketeers. Let's have a look at this stalker. Monster hunter. +2 modification when you scout a beast of any kind. Rot finder. When using find a path, you have access to a new stunt that you can choose when you roll extra 6s to find the most rot-free route through the sector. The rot level counts as 1 step lower during this visit to the sector. We'll talk about rot in a bit. And then there's the scavenger. So you can see how the stalker actually is quite an essential role.
Yeah.
So all these talents are unique to the different roles. So here we go. We then get to our mutations. So when you activate a mutation, no one can stop you and you never risk failure. Most mutations have several effects. You must choose which one of them you want to use. To activate your mutation, you need a mutation point or more than one. So at the beginning of every game session, you get a number of mutation points equal to the number of mutations that you have. You can win more MPs by pushing dice rolls. You can save MPs from one session to the next, and you can never have more than 10 MPs. So in conflict, activating a mutation usually counts as an action. This is not true for reactions and enhancing effects, but a misfire, that you can't fail when using a mutation doesn't mean it's without risk. Roll 1 basic die for each mutation you use to activate the mutation. If you roll 1 or more hazard symbols, the mutation misfires. It has its desired effect, but something else happens too.
It's amazing.
So, you know, it's bad enough that you might be a horribly disfigured person, but this is where using your superpower doesn't always come up trumps for you. So
you take permanent trauma if you. Wow.
Yeah. On a 1, your mutant power runs amok and you suffer 1 point of permanent trauma. You choose which attribute is affected. At the same time, you develop a new mutation.
Jeez. This game is no joke.
It's not, is it? Whereas a 6, the mutation gets supercharged. You get back the MP you just spent, and you can immediately, in the same turn, activate the same mutation again against the same target or another. All right, so mutations, it's not something you're going to be doing all the time, because there is a possibility that things might go wrong.
Oh no, read number 5. That's terrifying.
Number 5, okay. The mutation changes your appearance in some way. You choose how. The effect is only cosmetic, but it is permanent. Oh, that's nasty.
Yeah.
So, now, we have the list of the mutations, and it goes in detail on these. And obviously, as a character, we start off with a mutation. I'm going to grab 2d6 and let's roll up a mutation. Let's see what what are you going to be? Are you going to be a stalker or the chronicler?
I'm going to be the chronicler. Let's go with that.
Okay. So, let's take a look. Out of the list that you've just been scanning through, which one do you not want to have?
Oh, I don't know. You know what? I'm fine with all of them. I can work with it. I can do this.
All right. Here we go then. So I'm just going to roll these dice and see what you get. In fact, what we can do... There we go. Oh, wow. It's 11. You have acid spit.
All right. I can't believe you rolled snake eyes. Actually, I can.
You can. Of course you can. Of course you can. You know what my dice rolls are like. Well, acid spit is not that bad. So glands in your mouth generate a potent acid. So you can spit acid at a target up to a near range. Costs you 1 point. You can use your acid to melt thin rope or a bar. Or open a simple lock. Well, that's pretty good.
Pretty useful. Look at that.
Okay. Let's see what my boss, what they have. Red is going to be the 10s. So that's 36. Oh, yes. 36. Pyrokinesis.
Oh.
Yeah, who's the boss now? Okay, that's quite cool. I like that. Let's see what it says for pyrokinesis.
Yeah, that's really good.
You have the ability to set things on fire with pure force of will. That's cool. There we go. So, make a living being burst into flames up to a near range, melt ice, or heat a cold area.
For 1 hour.
For 1 hour, yeah.
That's pretty good, especially if you get into an area where, it's like, okay, we have nothing to keep us warm, and you're just like, now we do.
There we go. I've just set light to one of my friends. but we have a whole variety here. We have a corpse eater, somebody who eats the dead. Flame breather. They have 4 arms. Human magnet. A human plant. Insect wings. You have grown fly-like or butterfly-like wings on your back. You can fly up to 100 feet and then you must land. So that makes me think of the Carnival Row series you spoke about. Luminescence, just like fireflies. Your body has a natural ability to emit light. Man-beast, man-terror, parasite. You are a human parasite capable of absorbing the life force of other living humanoids, being at arm's length. You got the pyrokinesis.
I want to see someone play these as less as a gift and more as a detriment.
Yeah.
Like even the acid spirit, like maybe you can do this, you can choose to voluntarily do this, but it also happens when you get like super excited and you start babbling, all of a sudden you spit acid, you're like, oh no, I'm sorry.
Here we go. Again, we always seem to relate to movies that we've seen, but it's the best way to sort of express the idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
The recent Suicide Squad movie, they had a character in there. Is it Polka Dot Man? And he has these cosmically charged polka dots that if they hit a character, then they explode. Yeah, and it goes. They go off like colourful discs. It all looks really, really nice, and you think that's awesome. And then, spoilers, you find out that actually it's a sort of a radiation disease that unfortunately his mum basically experimented on him as a kid, and he basically has to expel these discs because otherwise he becomes grotesquely boils up, and the discs turn into pustule boils all over his body, which would ultimately cause him to explode. So he has to vent these discs away. It's great when he's in combat that he can use them, but he's got to manage it during everyday activities, and so he ends up walking off at the night time to just expel it all so that he can reduce back down to being normal. And it's a constant thing he's having to deal with. So I like the idea of these abilities are amazing, but they are a negative that the characters are having to deal with. I think that's quite cool. That's an interesting point. Rot Eater. You are totally insensitive to the effects of the rot. So, rot doesn't harm you. But you see, there we go. Maybe because it doesn't harm you, maybe you have to ingest it. Maybe you have to be in it at a certain period of time. So you're constantly searching it out. So whereas everybody else wants to avoid it.
I think of that almost like it's a compulsion.
Yes.
And like you have to, and like even though you're like, I don't want to do this, but I have to. I have no control over it. I just have to.
Yeah. No, I think that's a nice alternate way of experiencing the game, but seeing all of these mutations as a negative. Like the tracker here, it's saying straight away, your sense of smell is extremely well developed. Well, maybe another ability, another sense is in a deficiency because of it. So yeah, I think that's quite cool. It just adds to the role playing, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Okay, so we move on then to conflict and trauma, and this is basically just going through combat within the game. We've kind of experienced this in all the other Year Zero games because it is pretty much all the same. This is where it started from. Going through into close combat. Oh, there we go. And then we start having ranged combat. Again, I like the idea that all the weapons are all salvaged. Bits of things that they have found out in the wilderness, cobbled together. But we're good that in the wilderness we still have flamethrowers. Flamethrowers are essential.
Which is interesting that we still have them when people can basically make themselves a flamethrower.
Yes. It's for those who can't.
Yes.
So with all of this combat available, then of course we need to have a critical injuries table. and I believe that this pretty much hasn't changed much across the years. It's much the same because they very much have nailed it as far as all the different things that potentially can happen to you.
Yep.
Yeah. This game is not shy on the levels of damage that can occur.
And I love that some of it has like time limits to it.
Yes.
It's so good.
There we go. Roll a 65, you receive a pierced heart. Your heart beats one last time, then you die. Time to make a new PC.
Oh my gosh. And some of them are just mean, like, ha, you die instantly and you'll never see Eden. It's like, geez, thanks.
Yeah. It's like, there's no pulling of punches here.
Yeah.
But hopefully, you don't necessarily take those levels of damage. But we do have conditions. Starving and dehydrated, sleepless, hypothermic, because of course, it is harsh out there in the zone. We have booze, so it's not all that bad. So booze is a good way to be able to offset some of the effects.
This booze is more like moonshine. So
yeah, yes.
not quite sure that it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, possibly a dice roll in there.
Yeah. Roll a con save, please.
So we do have vehicles, but these are rust-ridden wrecks from the old age. And of course there must be some sort of salvaging of gasoline to keep them going. So that would be, again, there's a whole storyline there, isn't there? On the having to scavenge for gasoline out of wrecks to basically have your generators working, or or maybe you put together a convoy because you're going to go from one place to the next, and you need to salvage enough fuel.
Or your moonshine, because it says it can run off of freshly distilled booze.
Well, there we go then.
So these are highly combustible.
Highly combustible. That's awesome. Yeah, cool.
That is fantastic.
Okay, so we then go to the Ark. And this is, if you remember, we looked at Vassan, didn't we?
Yes.
Which we thought we fell in love with instantly, which in essence is the same rule set, but Vassan allows you to have your sort of secret society house, to which during the course of the game you can modify it and do renovations and build dungeons and libraries and things like that. This is where it started. So we have the Ark. So we've mentioned the Ark several times. This is where our group come from. This is our little haven where, as I say, it's about 150 odd of us there, but we're now having to venture out into the wastelands. But what is the Ark like for us, for our players? And you, as around the table as a group with the Games Master, you get to create your Ark. And I always I like this. This is essentially play session 0. We've made our characters, but you probably could spend an entire session just preparing your Ark before you then go off on your adventure. So, and
it's got very like Walking Dead vibes for the Ark.
Yes.
And I love it. I'm here for it.
Well, definitely. Yeah, Walking Dead has a couple of key locations during the different TV shows that they've done, which could be great inspiration for an Ark. As we go through this, so guys in the chat, if you'd like to suggest what your arc would be, write it on in. Manda, you have a think of what you would make as your arc, and I've had a few ideas, but I'll give you some examples. We've hotels and prisons, an old cargo ship that the water has receded and now it's been washed up on the shore. You know, these
there's a list.
Is there a list? Oh, there is. Right, yeah. Let's go across to the other page. There we go. What have we got here? Airplane wreck, a bridge, a farm, gated community, junkyard, a mall, an oil rig, a prison, a scrap village, a shelter, a shipwreck, a skyscraper, a small island, a subway station, or a trailer park. Rogue is suggesting an old manufacturing building. What would they have manufactured in that building, Roger? These are the details we need to know. Maybe, could it have been a steel refinery? Or maybe they made food of some description. So you've got all these different elements. So what we're doing, we have to decide the zone location and zone map. We then decide what type of arc it's going to be. Arc position. Which sector to place the arc in. So then we have to draw up an arc map. A rough map of the arc to help it visualize. We have to set our elder. Where in the arc the elder lives. They're rarely seen in person these days, but their den is still a hub of activity in the arc. So then the bosses, the most influential people in the arc are the bosses. They're the focal point for most conflicts. And we have different boss types. So these are the ones who essentially run the show, but run it under the elder, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
But the elder is become more of a mysterious figure now. We then have to create other NPCs. So again, you start thinking of Bartertown in Mad Max. Or I'm obviously thinking of all the settlements in the Fallout video games, which would be quite cool. Rogue is saying a bottling company. Oh, that's cool. Something, some sort of soft drinks manufacturer. So think of all those racks with all those glass bottles. Are you trying to form a currency?
There you go. Where you're gonna use bottle caps? That's what we're using.
Yeah.
But what about for a place thing like a zoo or an aquarium?
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's large areas, and especially with a zoo, you'll have areas where you can grow vegetation and stuff like that. You could keep animals.
I guess that's actually really interesting, because a zoo is effectively a fenced or walled enclosed area to which it has sub-enclosed areas within it. Typically, there is sort of a biome within each of those, isn't it? It's a habitat. So you'd have grass or you'd have sand sort of areas. So some of these enclosed areas could be used for foods. You could actually make little districts, because think of how many sort of tents or shacks you could put up in one area, and that could be the food sort of restauranty sort of area in your arc, and then another area is the sleeping area, and there's various districts, and then of course one of the districts would be the premier district for those who were higher up in the rankings, who maybe had more bottle caps money than the others. Yeah, actually, a zoo is a really cool idea. Yeah,
right.
I like
and then you always in a zoo, you have your area where you come in, and it's not quite as gated, but you do have some barriers where that's your parking lot. But then before you get there, you have like the gates and stuff that get pulled across the turnstiles and everything to close it off to public at night.
Yeah.
And then everywhere you walk, you have different kiosks that have the capability of cooking.
Yes.
So you've got all bunch of different things there. You've got stuff that was in your gift shop. You've got things to tinker with. You know, you have access to a vet site, which would have medicine. It'll have like the stuff you need to store medicine and stuff like that. Like, why did nobody like in these go to a zoo?
A zoo. You would also have security, the CCTV.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you have a way of processing water.
Yes.
Because you have tons of filters and stuff like that and all that. So, and you're always on a huge bit of land.
Yeah.
And it's always, you're never like, when you go to a zoo, you're never, even if you go to a zoo that's in a city, like it's always on a bit of land that has forests around it or like fields or something like that, because you're never just, it's just block like housing on either side. Like you always have other resources around you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. So you've got
That's my answer too.
Yeah, you've got to determine other NPCs and your population. You've got to set a water source, which of course is really important. And then it does give a bit of a sketch example here, which I thought was quite cool. Not a zoo, but we have a beached cruise ship. And you can see where the different bosses basically have sort of dominion in the different areas. Mm-hmm. We know where the water source is. We know where the Elder's Den is. I like the idea that the one boss has basically taken over the sort of chimney stack area. They've got all of that towered area. Yep. Somebody else is in the back part. But yeah, a cruise ship is a great idea. All those levels, all those locked doors. Yeah, I think cruise ships would be quite cool. So,
and a theme park. That's another good one too.
Yes, yeah. So once you've got this idea, this is as much as we're going off on missions, but you're also trying to develop your arc, because as it said at the beginning that your arc is close to potentially collapsing if it does not get care and attention. So you're having to work on projects to maintain and actually build up the arc. The arc effectively becomes another character, a character that you're sort of managing. It is your home, after all. And there's a whole variety of projects here that you can basically undertake. That I think you can only ever do sort of one project during a game session, because of course it is a big project. But some of these are quite interesting. So here we go. We talked about a pigsty. So pigs and other farm animals from the old age. So we now have a section to basically look after them. We have a museum, which of course the chronicler will be very excited about. We do have cannibalism. If the Ark is on the brink of starvation, the people can resort to desperate measures.
I was going to say, we just brushed over cannibalism there. We need to go back a minute.
No. I saw it. Oops. Here's another example. This is an arc by using a scrap fortress, so big sheets of metal to make an enclosure and building towers and structures within. But, you know, we have different other things. We can make a watchtower or statue, a marketplace, some stables. We could maybe have a tribunal, because, of course, we need to have law and order.
See, I'm liking a zoo more and more because it's already set up to handle agriculture and animals and all that.
Yeah.
And if you could even use it for the ones that have the dogs. They can have an area where they can keep their dogs safe.
Yeah.
See, it's the perfect place. Go to a zoo. That's where we're going.
No, I think you might be onto something there.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a whole variety, and they're all quite cool.
Ooh, a library.
Yeah. Over on here,
Tavern.
wanting to build roads, and they all have bonuses that obviously make your arc a better place. I did notice. Where is it? There is something else in here. Let me find it. Ah, there we go. Oh, okay, but hang on a second. I'm just looking. Where is it? Because if it has one thing, it's got to have the other. Or it certainly implies it. Yeah, because there's definitely some dark elements to the game, potentially, if you wanted to include them. In fact, okay, so yeah, it's only giving you. It's an interesting one. I guess it would depend on the group of people playing whether it was something that they wanted to include or not. But yes, free enterprise. I guess it is something that's obviously always sort of seems to be featured in various. Certainly, Mad Max had it featured, didn't it? Where people are sort of indentured into servitude for others. So maybe our arc has gone past that, but that's something that we are able to outlaw. I thought that there was a section where that was actually part that you could have it in, but it doesn't seem it is, which is right. But it kind of implies that it is if you can stop it, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we then get to skipping. Oh, I've gone too far. Ah, this is behave. There we go. Zone travel. So this is obviously a section now just explaining more about the world. We've got our characters, we've got our arc, but we need to know more about the world that we are within. And so it's talking about the Big Smoke, which of course is the ruins of London. As you can see, Tower Bridge is certainly not looking like it once did. And you know, this is where I really sort of love these type of games where they just start explaining all about the backstory, everything, where it's all gone wrong.
Yeah.
We then have Zone 2, which is the Dead Apple. What is left
it's so cool.
of New York. New York has been flooded for the most part. But I think that, again, would be really, really interesting because as much as, you know, obviously London has its subway system, but New York has a subway system.
Yes, I was going to say, maybe they blocked off places so that, yes, well, it's flooded, but you could still get in, and you now have this huge community in different areas of the underground.
Yes. Yes, that's instantly what I started thinking about. Imagine
what mutations that would bring on itself.
And I've always liked in movies and TV shows the idea of when they go and discover old, walled off stretches of track that, you know, go back hundreds of years, yeah, and you know, to be able to go into those areas, that would actually be quite a lot of fun. So yeah.
Oh, yeah. This map is like I zoomed in on the map, and oh my goodness.
Yeah.
There's so much on the New York map. So much.
So
Bloodsuckers Marsh.
Oh, okay. That says something then, doesn't it? So on the back pages, there is the New York map, and you can actually get these as handouts. So you can have full-size versions of these, which is really, really good.
So good. So good.
Yeah. But also, I mean, I suppose this is the difference, isn't it? Is, of course, all of the skyscrapers within New York. So the opportunity of having sky bridges between one skyscraper to another on multiple levels, and thinking just how precarious they will be with the wind howling between the structures. Or maybe...
And depends on what you made them out of, too.
Well, you possibly use cranes, old construction cranes that were still there at the time. Maybe you were lucky. Using their gantries, I don't know. So, yeah. A lot of fun to be had there. Now, we then get to a section. Just going to highlight this one, because we kind of started talking about it. Artifacts. So, items from the old age that still work or can provide the people with useful knowledge are the single most important reason to venture into the zone. So there are artifact cards, and there's a table on 189. I'm gonna skip ahead and find out. Oh wow, okay. So there's a whole section on these. Oh, let's have a look. I'm just going to pick a few. What could we find? We might find a comic book, or some energy pills, or a jerry can, or a scooter, a scooter, or a soda can, or a wrench, or a video camera. And then it does give you all the details, all the info on all the different things that you can find. That's really cool. That's very cool indeed. And then, of course, it is talking about the rot. The lingering effect of the ancients' weapons of mass destruction. Some say it's the result of experiments gone horribly wrong. Maybe it's just nature's revenge on the human race for consuming the Earth's natural resources too greedily. Beware the rot. So the rot can attack. Does it actually say the rot is some sort of vines? So the worst thing about the rot is that it permeates your body and builds up inside you over time. When you are contaminated by the rot, you suffer rot points. It is out there everywhere. It's stronger in some places, weaker in others. The effects of the rot are unpredictable. It can be anything from the shivers and a fever to hair loss and vomiting blood. So you can get rot suits that protect you from it, from decontamination. That was something that I thought of, or I think I saw. What about an arc in an old power station? But then I thought, hang on a second, you wouldn't necessarily want to be in an old nuclear power station, would you?
No.
I think that might be the worst place for you. So that pretty much then brings us to the end of the player's guide, because we now transition over to the Games Masters section, and we'll have a quick flick through on this just to sort of highlight some of the little points. So we got a derelict oil rig here, that would be quite cool. Again, and depending on the nature of your apocalypse, maybe the water has receded in certain areas, and that being the case, you can walk out to some of those oil rigs, and maybe all of the what was the seabed has now taken on vegetation. So you can make them potentially your arc. This
is where knowing foraging skills is really going to come in handy, guys.
It's what? Sorry.
This is where knowing foraging skills is really going to come in handy.
Yeah, no, definitely. We then have threats against the Ark. So this is really interesting, and sort of leans in nicely to all of those post-apocalyptic shows we've watched and enjoy. So, you know, boss versus boss, a child of the people. So somebody says that someone's going to give birth, and of course, remember, people are not supposed to be able to have children. So what would that cause? The derelict oil rig, the hell drivers, the hunger, the killing machine, the last drop, lost treasure. All these great little snippets of reasons why your arc is in trouble and what you've then got to do to try and get through to the next day. So lots of great.
There's so much. Yeah, there's so much you can do with this. Like, especially if you had like a bigger group of players that were wanting to play, because you could have an entire encounter just happen within their arc and deal with like things happening from one side to the other if you were in a big place.
Yes. Yeah. There's part of, I think a great little story would be, you know, the fact of it, that this sort of first mission, you know, when you're just getting used to things, is yes, you've got to venture out just a little bit, just out onto the fringes, just maybe a mile beyond the arc, and just a little encounter, just so you realize as players just how terrible it is out there. But then there's a big story actually within the arc itself, because there was a TV show. Oh gosh, what was it called? Was it called Defiant? There was a video game made of it. It was a big, massively multiplayer game, and it was based in the American city that has a huge arch. Do you know? Anyone who knows which American city has a massive arch in it, because it's not derelict, but there's a radio station up at the top of it apparently now in the future. I can't think for the life of me what the name of that city is. Oh, it's so annoying. But they pretty much, as much as you're adventuring out, they spent most of their time in this city and all the problems that the new generation would face following the collapse of civilization. So you could spend so long without even going out into the zone. I like the idea of one of these bosses sort of ruling things, and you know, the politics that are in play. I think that would be quite cool. You know, so again, there's rules here on creating the zone, and there's lots of tables for you to roll up to discover things as you are exploring.
Are you mean St. Louis?
That's possibly it, yes.
Okay. I'm trying to think. I'm like, which one is it?
Yeah. Well,
what's coming to mind?
It's so iconic. But of course I can't remember the city. But it was in this video game, and they made a television series from it. And the series was actually half decent in this idea of, you know, end of the world and what happens. It was quite cool. There was characters who owned the mine, which provided the fuel, but there was feuds between the mayor and the mine chief, and of course it's their squabbles. If the mine chief wasn't getting what he wanted, he would stop production so that then fuel wasn't available for the rest of the city. So the mayor's trying to sort of work that relationship, but still get the fuel, but not give to the whims of this mine leader, not give him too much power. It was nicely done. And there's sort of bounty hunters in there as well, which is cool. So yeah, we got ruins, a road tunnel, or a old police station, or a sports centre. And there's lots of stuff here, the level of the rot and the threats in the zone. What type of threats? Are they humanoid threats or monster threats? Phenomena threats? Is it acid rain? Or a magnetic field that we're facing?
Oh man, acid rain could be such a big one to play with.
Yeah, you have to,
especially if your encampment is open. How are you protecting your livestock, your plants, everything?
Yes. There's a section here now talking about mood elements, which is quite interesting because obviously there's potentially, many miles of just wasteland where there's not necessarily anything there, but you still need to sort of set the scene a little bit. And some of these that, there are dark clouds, the sky darkens and the wind picks up. Dust whirls around across the broken old pavement. A storm is brewing.
So good.
Yeah. So there's mood elements for people, for nature, for weather, for remains, for events, and terrain. So that's quite cool. And then it goes into, which again, there's just so much detail here. Ruins in the zone. So all the things that we could have rolled up, now it's giving us all the little details that we need to flesh it out. Airplane wrecks, a mall, a police station. And then, here we go. We have industrial ruins. Can we have a bottling factory? We have a factory, a purification plant.
Ooh.
It's getting close. I think we're going to have to go with factory. The metal roof of this large, flat building has caved in long ago. Inside, there are machines and strange vehicles with huge forks in the front. Everything in here is ravaged by decades of rain and wind. Some rusty old
there's a
barrels
refinery.
Have fallen over and a greenish sludge has leaked out onto the floor. A refinery. Where's the refinery? The entire landscape is full of rusting and decaying machinery covers this part of the zone. Enormous tanks are connected by metal tubes, some wide enough for a mutant to crawl through. If you dare, you can climb through these metallic deadlands on ladders, girders, and walkways. That'd be quite cool.
Yeah.
And then we go on to threats in the zone. So we can take a look at all of the things that we possibly might face.
But first, that picture. Oh my gosh.
Yes, is he being caught up by a living tree, or is it the person stood behind them that is manipulating the vines?
Yeah, I am terrified.
In a sort of creepy X-Man-y, yeah. Yes.
Oh, that is horrifying.
I guess you could lean quite heavily into a horror element on the game, couldn't you?
Oh, absolutely. And if you wanted to make it really scary and you really want to do it, set this entire thing in the Appalachian Mountains and bring the lore from that.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look into that then.
Oh, it's terrifying. And actually, fun fact: the Scottish Highlands and the Appalachian Mountains used to be one when Pangea was a thing.
Okay, right.
So yeah.
So we can cross over.
There you go.
Oh goodness, no. Okay, so we do have. Oh, there we go. We do have. Oh, there we go. Beast mutants. Oh, mutant beasts. We'll talk about those in a bit. We, of course, have got to have cannibals and doom cultists. We can run into an expedition from another arc, because we are not necessarily the only arc. We're not the only survivors. Or we could bump into some wanderers. Again, there's elements of religious castes that will take place, end of the world, sort of zealots. So that could be quite interesting. That's a whole story in its own right. We have monsters, acid grass, and air jellies. There are mechanical automatons.
Air jellies.
Yeah,
it feels like something I want to go. If not friend, why friend shaped?
We've got gutfish. So, and a devourer. A devourer is not a friend. It's in the title. Yes. We've got the killer tree. There you go. That's what we've just seen.
Great.
Seen a killer tree.
And a death worm.
We got rot ants. Rot ants.
Oh.
Size of a fist with powerful jaws. Oh my gosh, there's just so much stuff that wants to kill us. Oh, zone spiders. Oh no, we don't want to see those.
No, I'm out. I'm gone. I'm out.
Zone leeches, but look at those. They're the size of pasties.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
That must be in the bad apple.
Yes. Well, there must be cockroaches somewhere, mustn't there? So there's got to be that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they have to be. They don't die.
They don't die. Nothing kills them. We've got phenomena. So acid rain and ghost lights and electrical storms. So we've seen a lot of this on the tables that we've looked through. Obelisks. Ooh. Sinkholes and temperature drops. Unexploded ordnance.
Great.
And then it goes into the artifacts, which we mentioned before. So these are things that we can find. Automobiles and batteries. We have a cassette player.
There's an air mattress. That is one of our artifacts.
There you go. The amazing technology from the past is an air mattress.
A tuxedo. Okay.
These are the things that we hope will survive.
Right?
We got a lifestyle magazine.
Oh my goodness.
All right. So there's plenty of things to be found in the wasteland. I think I'm going to stop there because we don't want to get to the point where we ruin anything. Yeah, we'll probably just leave it at that point. I will skip all the way so we can. Oh. We don't want to see anything. Lots of tables. There you go. So we can have a look at the bad apple. So they have released 3 expansion books to this, and I am going to forget the titles of them, but I can tell you the essence of each book. The one that I think, which is the first of the books that they did, is essentially mutant animals, so that you get to play an animal that has become humanoid. So,
oh, that is fantastic.
And that's what I would play the entire game just as that. So as much as these are humans that have mutated, these are now animals that have mutated to be more human-like. So straight away, it's Rocket Raccoon. That's, in essence, one of the characters. You can have...
or the TV show Sweet.
Yes.
Or Sweet Tooth.
Yeah, Sweet Tooth.
Yeah.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
So the cover has a fox with a gun and a bear with a mouse riding on its shoulder. I, of course, could have a monkey. I mean, this is where did all the animals in the zoo go? Yeah. Well, now we know. Yeah. So I think playing this game with that element, that would be the game for me. I think I would really, really enjoy that. The second expansion delves more into the mechanical and technological side of the world and all of the robots that populate areas. It did mention it briefly in some of the adversaries. Well, it delves into so much more detail in the one of the expansions. And then the third expansion is an area of the world that actually has not been affected by the rot or by the apocalypse. It is a beautiful, safe haven. Potentially, is it this Eden that we are looking for? And giving all the details on Eden and basically how to play either from that area or venturing finally to it. So there's a lot to this game world. And it's quite surprising that, considering that this was their first game, it still has all the appeal of, even today, as it did when it first came out. I can't wait to sort of delve into this in more detail and actually explore this world now that I'm fueled by all of these TV shows that I'm watching that are all so relevant. And here we are. We have a game to be able to sort of act out some of those stories and situations. So yeah, I'm very excited about it. What did you think of it in a sort of in an overview?
Oh, I think it's fantastic. I think there's so much possibilities for story building and creating your own world within it, especially with what you can do for the arcs, because your arc can be its own world.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, I could definitely see myself spending lots of time just drawing my arc and just all the little intricate elements on how things all interconnect. Your little food district, your tinkering district, yeah. And again, depending on what your arc is, the layout, so as you described on your zoo, you might have different sections within the different habitats. But if you maybe took over a skyscraper, it'd be different levels, different floors within the skyscraper. Maybe there's an intricate network of wheels and pulleys in the elevator shafts. That's how fast communications get passed around. And maybe the main boss, maybe they live up on the very top floor. And maybe that's the fight, isn't it? That all the lower bosses are always trying to take over the top floor, and everybody else is just trying to live within the skyscraper, doing their daily things, while these bosses and their gangs are constantly vying for power.
And then if you took like a farm and you did one that, some of these farms have like 500 plus acres to them, right? And you have various barns on different acreage, and this one's growing this and this is growing this, but maybe not someone within your community, but someone from the outside came and salted the land on one area, but used something that they got from another section to try and start something within that community. Like, there's so much you can do.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
I'm here for the chaos.
Yeah, there's so much potential. But the great thing about it is it seems like a great game for new players because it does guide you through. The rules are, there's enough depth there to have a great game, but they are described in such a way that it's simple to follow, simple to get into. So as a starting game, it's probably a very strong one to consider. Right.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
There we go. I think we'll leave it there then. Oh, that's the one I want. There we go. Yeah, okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me and taking a look through Mutant Year Zero from Free League Publishing. That was a lot of fun.
It was. Thank you so much for inviting me to look at this with you.
Great. Well, hopefully we'll see you on Thursday for a fun game. Yeah.
Yes.
We'll see if we're able to do what we have planned. If not, then okay. I will find something that will work quickly for us. But yes, looking forward to games on Thursday night.
Excellent. Talk to you then.
All right. Bye for now, man.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so there we go. Thanks to Amanda for joining on in tonight. Looking through Mutant Year Zero from Free League Publishing. Role-playing at the end of days. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you have any questions, do leave them in the chat. We will be back on Thursday night for another tabletop game, so hopefully you can join us then. But until then, bye for now.